Did you just throw your phone?
No, I did not throw the phone.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Beg Pardon. As always, I'm your host Anthony, joined by Carlos, and welcome to the show. How are you, Carlos?
A little nervous, not gonna lie.
Yeah. You guys got some alarming news today.
For those of you that haven't seen, I'll be the Walter Cronkite for you. The governor of Florida said that we can all go back, open up the gates. It was like Arendelle around here. Yeah.
Good old Ron.
For the first time in forever, we're going to open the gates.
Yeah.
And that probably wasn't the best decision. So we'll see how it plans out, folks. That's the way it was.
Yeah. So we may be doing this from your hospital bed because I feel like everyone in the entire state is going to be, yeah. And we'd still have to do the show.
I would still, yeah.
Nurse, please, we need the technology in there. Please allow that in the room.
I'd be like, phone me in.
Oh my god, it'd be so serious. People would take the show so seriously.
Yeah, because they don't take it serious enough now.
Right? So I'm kind of excited today. So today, for those of you that have been listening, especially to the last 10 or so episodes, we keep giving little shout outs to McGraw Hill, good old McGraw Hill. So today we've dedicated an entire episode to them.
We have. They're old, but are they good?
Yeah, a Hall of History episode dedicated to McGraw Hill and education in general, similar to our episode on Tuesday, but we did reserve a little bit of a spotlight for the publishing company to highlight them. So what did we find out? What'd you find out?
I found out that it's a lot older than I originally thought.
Yeah.
1888 is when they kind of started up. Yeah, which I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I didn't even know there were textbooks in 1888 for colleges and stuff.
I didn't even know people could read.
I thought it was literally just people so-and-so wrote a paper. You should go read it, like a common sense, pamphlet type thing. I didn't know there were textbooks. But yeah, James McGraw, who's a school teacher from upstate New York, and he purchased the American Journal of Railway Appliances to meet the growing demand for insight into the rail industry. This is all from McGraw Hill website, folks. So this is tried and true information.
This isn't a Hall of History where we teach you what the facts are. These were the facts.
Yeah. These are the facts according to McGraw Hill, just the way we like it. And yeah, John Hill was an editor at a locomotive engineer place. So. And then,
I feel like everyone back then was in the railroad.
I think you had to be.
Yeah.
I feel like there wasn't really any other industry to get into. And also it's kind of getting bigger.
In the mine. Either you're a miner or you're working on the railroads.
Yeah. Which, when you think about it, they go hand in hand. Because aren't the miners getting the coal for the railroad?
Mm-hmm. I think so. And they have those little, they run the rail lines into the mine and they push the little things full of coal and material up the little hills, or they use the little pulleys, or who was that? John Henry, where he's just
John Henry, yeah, but that was the railroad. I don't think that was the mines. I think he was literally working on the railroad. Yeah.
Is that a myth, or was that real? Was he a real person?
He might have been a real person that just became a folklore.
Yeah, because it was kind of inhuman,
Yeah, so they just kind of made it into a bigger story.
Gotcha.
Kind of like Paul Bunyan. I wonder if Paul Bunyan was a real person.
Well, the ox wasn't
big
real.
Enough.
Some blue ox.
It could have been an ox, but not blue.
We
should do a Hall of History on that.
Babe?
I think so. And their fight is what caused the Grand Canyon, apparently.
Yeah. Then you had Johnny Appleseed around that time.
Yeah. These are the legends that America has. Other countries have a banshee and gargoyles and Celtic things, and we're have you heard about a giant with a blue ox?
Yeah. We're gonna replace them on Mount Rushmore. Just all of their faces.
Just the blue ox.
Yeah. Fuck it. We'll put Trump's face up there too. He wants up there. We'll put him up there.
Oh my god. That just threw me off the whole thing.
Shut the episode down. We're done for the night.
Yeah, no one wants to see that. So 1917, McGraw Hill merged into one company.
No.
So I feel like that was
Publishing
also
company,
yeah, I feel like that was also a big thing back then, because like we talked about in a previous episode with the circuses, the circuses kind of merged together, and I feel like mergers were bigger back then because people were kind of like, listen, I'm getting my beak wet, you want to get your beak wet, get a little more cash. They don't do that as much anymore.
No.
But probably because now like the government's like it's a monopoly. Like when you
and I mean like you have people like Walmart, Amazon. I mean, I feel like the sections are already like segmented to where there's
drastic.
a leader in each of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Marriott, like who?
Yeah. Who's gonna merge with Apple? Like who does Apple want to merge with? Actually, like.
Well, Sprint just merged with T-Mobile. There's one that just happened recently. Well, it's been in the works for a couple years, but
yeah.
I mean, you have Sprint and T-Mobile.
Finalized. Singular and AT&T did too back in the day.
I wonder if they're going to keep the Sprint guy, formerly the Verizon guy. Now he's going to be the T-Mobile guy.
Poor guy. I hope he's a T-Mobile guy, because poor guy. Talk about bouncing from job to job. Can you hear me now?
I thought that was like part of the thing. Can you hear me now? No.
He's probably
now I'm just imagining him like in a room. In a room. Oh, that got real dark in my head. Like, in a dark room. Just, can you hear me now? And the one spotlight goes away and you just hear like, bang.
Oh my god!
I know. I said.
It's got way darker than we wanted it to, folks. No,
that's
like
what I said. I said it's super dark. That
was a mice and men type thing. Like,
just pick up the call.
Just tend the rabbits. Like that's what you made it sound like. God Almighty.
Hopefully he's doing well.
Hopefully he gets back on his feet with T-Mobile.
Hopefully he's doing well.
God bless him.
And if not, I have an amazing campaign available for him.
If not, we also have a recurring spot on a podcast if he wants to.
Yeah. The pay's not there, but I'll be damned if it isn't a good time.
The door is always open. We can always hear you.
Right. Okay, we have to get back.
So, 1952, they were the secondary list of Harper and Brothers' merged with the school department of the book company to meet the needs of the post-World War II baby boomers. So, this is where we kind of start seeing the mass production of we're going to tell you what history was with the baby boomer generation, which could explain a whole lot moving forward. Because in 1965, the California Test Bureau joined McGraw Hill, strengthening the company's leadership in the elementary and high school education and assessment market. Meaning, basically in layman's terms, they were now solidified as you are legit. Like, in the eyes of everything, you are legit. This is your new role. And they went on to do that, as we know, to this day. So much so, the McGraw Hill doesn't just do history books. They do, like, medical books. They do math books. They do pretty much any educational book you can get your hands on, which, as we dive deeper into this, makes me wonder, one, how well educated are we all really getting? And two, I now understand where the world rankings are for us, as opposed to people who don't have McGraw Hill. So,
yeah.
a lot of dots were connected doing the research here, folks.
Yeah, I think too, like, you're gonna learn that. I mean, if you trust one body with a majority of the information that is funneled to your children, I mean, the consequences can be pretty severe. Weirdly enough, I mean, I can't even lay all the blame on McGraw Hill, because there's boards of education in every city and state that approve what the hell is being funneled to these schools.
Sure, but I feel like if you are McGraw Hill, you have a bigger responsibility on your shoulders to make sure that what you're putting out there is verified by more than one source. I mean, essentially, McGraw Hill was the original Wikipedia. And now people are like, don't use Wikipedia, you don't know what's in there. I don't know what the hell is in McGraw Hill.
Yeah. Case in point, 2015.
Yeah, which we're going to get to that in 2 seconds, because I want to backtrack to an earlier controversy involving James Baldwin, who had wrote a series of books before And McGraw Hill actually paid him, I think it was $200,000 up front, to get the rights to his story he was writing that was about, it was called Remember This House. And it was a memoir about Medgar Evers and Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and his time with them. So it was kind of like an insight into like who they really were and how they really were. The man unfortunately died of cancer before he could finish the book. McGraw Hill then thought it was a good idea to then sue the family for the payment.
Not finishing the book?
Yeah, they wanted to collect on that because
the money
he
back.
didn't. Yeah, and then in 1990 they dropped the suit and said they didn't want to cause distress to the family. Oh, that's why.
1990.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like,
hell.
Yeah, and then to your point, the 2015 one was probably worse.
Yeah. So that in 2015, McGraw Hill published a geography textbook, in effect calling the Mid-Atlantic slave trade, the enslaved Africans that were brought to what is now the United States against their will as workers and immigrants, which is false.
For both.
Yes, for both.
Yeah.
And it was brought to the attention by a 9th grade boy who sent his mom like a picture of it, along with like a witty caption like "We sure was good workers" and like a smirky emoji. But what is alarming to me, what is not surprising to me is that this occurred in the state of Texas, which I live in. Not only that, but it was in a suburb of the city in which I live in currently, in Houston. So I was not alarmed to see that it was in the state of Texas, because Texas also had published history books in the years prior, referring to Moses as one of the founding fathers of this country, which is false.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Promised Land, yeah, but this isn't the Promised Land.
Yeah.
He didn't even make it to the Promised Land. Spoiler alert, folks.
Absolutely not true. So I was not entirely surprised. But what is surprising to me is the amount of people. I mean, a board of 15 people, the publishing company themselves, the teachers, for Christ's sake. So it goes through all of them before they give it to the children or cover it in class, and it still happened. That's where I don't buy that it's like a mistake. I don't buy that it's like, oh, it's like a publishing error. You got me.
You didn't care.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like mispronouncing like a word on a menu or something, or mispronouncing the word like enslaved in the book. But you changed the dialogue. You said something that you made the commentary something more appeasing to the overall masses. Which now,
Yeah.
What's different in times, even starting now and going into the future, is pretty soon there will be a minority majority in our public school system, and that's going to be extremely pivotal in the way that we teach our youth, which furthers the need for minority teachers.
Yep. And what's more alarming is, like you said, a child caught it.
Right.
Not, a doctor or somebody who has a doctorate. I'm not calling him a doctor. Somebody who has a doctorate that worked on it, doing it. Not somebody, in the company who was like, hey, before I print this, do you want to put this? It was literally a child who caught it. And then, to make it better, quote unquote, you said, all right, we'll send you new textbooks if you want to send us those back at no cost to you, by the way.
If you want to.
Or
Or
we'll send you stickers and you can just put it over that. What?
Like a damn Rice Krispies thing with a little white blurb on it, and you can write in whatever words you want.
Yeah, now it's an ad libs for history books.
Right. And
then the Texas Board of Education, who's also a Republican, the vice chair, Thomas Ratliff, said that it was one problematic caption that was blown out of proportion. I don't know if that's how I would handle that. And then to double down on it, the CEO of McGraw Hill said that he felt like they did enough to fix the description and to move past it, basically. Again, I don't know if all of these were the right way to handle it.
Correct.
Again, that's how you handle something that was literally a one-time incident. If you got my order wrong at a restaurant and you said, I comped your bill, we did enough, let's move past it. Yes. Not when you tell people a false narrative.
Thousands of youth, right?
Yes. And then make some of these poor kids sit in the class and have to learn about their heritage like this and hear lies. And we're told, like, well, what you were told is not entirely true. They were workers.
Right.
No, they weren't.
The Civil
This
War
wasn't a
was
Carnival
about
cruise.
states. The Civil War was about states' rights. It's not really about
Yeah.
slavery. Yeah. That's what I learned that in school. That like it really wasn't about. I mean, slavery was like a thing that happened, but it wasn't like the main reason for the Civil War. It's really about states' rights, and the South felt that their rights were being infringed upon. Yeah. What rights were those? Oh, owning people's property. That right.
Yeah. You don't even really learn about like the whole basically mock declaration and everything the Confederacy wrote or anything like that. You don't really even learn about that. We learned about like more in-depth things and more like brutally honest things when I was in high school because we had a teacher who, I mean, this man gave no F's. He was like, the textbook tells you this, but I'm going to tell you what really happened. Like when we got to the 60s and stuff.
He was the podcast version of the education system.
Yeah, he was blunt. He was like, it's telling you that, it was this peaceful. And he was like, I was there. It wasn't peaceful. And I was like, oh, damn. But not every teacher either specializes in history or was there for certain historical things to tell you. In 2011 and 2012 school year, there was more than a third of history teachers had not either majored or even been certified in the subject. Like, so you just read the textbook and you're like, I can do it.
I'm about to say that's where the responsibility of companies like McGraw Hill and the people writing the subject matter, that it's a huge responsibility because the teachers, the vastly underpaid teachers that we have in the United States aren't even certified to teach it. They didn't major in this in college. They don't know if it's I could put whatever I want in there and give it to them. They're not gonna be any wiser. They're gonna be like, well.
Wow, I didn't know that. That
type
of thing.
Moses was the first one to sign the Constitution. Crazy.
You're like, I mean, that must have been a chapter in the Old Testament they left out for good reason, apparently.
Right.
But McGraw Hill told me. Like,
thank God they were here.
Yeah, the Old Testament didn't have that.
And I think I think that if we had more teachers of color, it'd be really different too. I had not one my entire education, not one.
Ooh, I did.
I had not one.
Yeah, I did. I had to really think deep about it though. Like that's
sick.
the problem. Yeah, I really had to think about it. But I mean, to your point too, there's no state requirement, no state anywhere in the U.S. of A. requires teachers to have a major or a minor in history in order to teach it. So it's not even something you need. Like, that is insane to me. Because, again, we were always taught, you need to go to school for this, you need to major in this if you want a job in this. Mm-hmm. No, the hell you don't.
Well, I was also really meant majoring in education. So.
Yeah, I was also told I would never have a calculator at all times. Take that, Mr. Daughtry. Definitely have a calculator now.
Right. Thanks to
he's
mobile.
not listening. Yeah, he's not listening, but if he was, that burned him. I know it did.
You can feel his ears burning.
Yeah, I feel him chomping on his gum, pissed off. But yeah, how can you have something? Like, that's like having a doctor who didn't do any kind of surgery, and then he's going to do a surgery because he read about it. And he's like, no, I think I got this. It's pretty dangerous. And it's just as dangerous to have people teaching history they didn't really know, because that's how you get things like it was states' rights that they were fighting over.
Correct. And we live in a time where people that lived that experience and survived that experience are not on this earth. So we
Correct.
have to rely heavily on accurate writings of the past. And there's enough accurate writings of the past to know that these were not workers. This was not a Carnival cruise line that they came over on. They were not treated fairly, humanely, even in the slightest. That's the uncomfortable truth that we have to be able to educate our young people on. Otherwise, they're going to grow up and they're going to, I don't know, run a country someday, put kids in cages, force hysterectomies onto people that don't want them. Sound familiar? Like, this is exactly what's going to continue to happening if we have people that don't learn from our past behavior and our past mistakes. You can love your country. You can love your country and say that something's wrong.
Yeah, I mean...
Hell, you love your country even more by in my opinion.
Yeah, you look at Spain. Spain has a pretty brutal history. People still love their country in Spain. They just accept it happened, and they don't do it again. Germany, people love their country in Germany. Pretty big spot not to love about Germany, but again, they don't make statues for them. They don't have people writing textbooks who don't clearly know how to proofread. They do everything they can to make sure that you acknowledge this happened. It was an ugly spot for us, but we are now like this. But we don't want you to forget that it happened. Mm-hmm. Because we don't want it to happen again. Whereas, like we talked about in the previous episode, here, this is what you're getting pumped. This is what you're being told. Yeah. So at what point do you want to say 2 and 2 is not equaling 4 here and do the research yourself? Or at what point do you want to stand at PTA meetings and say, like, I want my kids to learn that this is the greatest country in the world. We had an ugly thing in our history, but we overcame it. You really didn't, in a way. Mm-hmm. You got rid of one thing, but the lasting effects and how you treat people, you just adapted to. You didn't get over it. You didn't say, like, we'll never do that again. You just adapted to it, and you learned how to still change the game legally this time. Yeah. I mean, housing is one way.
Mass incarceration.
Mass incarceration.
Yeah. Profiling.
Job employment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did you really get past your dark spot, or did you, again, just figure out that, okay, we can't do that, but maybe we can do this?
Like, we're in it. We are, like, in the time still. And there needs to be there needs to be a concerted effort to move past it. The Washington Post did a study. 70% of Americans support anti-racism education policies. 70% of all the people that they surveyed. Then, if that is true, then why in our education system in schools are we not addressing it in a real and authentic way? Racism, I mean, in general, other than like briefly touching over slavery, was never addressed in our school. Like the civil rights movement, we learned about Martin Luther King. We learned about that he did the March on Washington and he was killed. That's it. And some of us learned that Malcolm X was a bad man. Mm-hmm. Like, if the overwhelming majority of Americans want, they want this to be given to our youth, then that tells me that, one, either the people taking those surveys were afraid their names were going to be published and lied, or two, that the people at the top, they're the ones that are like, we're the old guard, right? Like, we still want people to know their place.
Yeah. I mean, we also, like you said... No, go ahead.
Where they're like, my great-grandfather was a Confederate soldier, and I'll be damned if you're going to tarnish his reputation. He was a good man.
Yeah, his glowing reputation.
Right.
He was a war hero. Yeah, sure he was.
Right. That big plantation we had, all the work that we put into it.
Yeah.
Did you?
Sure. Okay. But like you said, we learned about Martin Luther King Jr. and that speech that was so like triumphant, and it was such a beautiful dream, and it was an extremely moving speech. But people don't know the speech that he was basically did that also went over about the job force in America. And he basically said, like, it didn't cost them one penny to integrate restaurants. It didn't cost them one penny to integrate anything, but it's going to cost them billions to get us to where we need to be, essentially. It's not a quote for quote, but essentially that's what he was saying. It's going to cost you money now to do X. And when that hit people's ears, they didn't want to spend the money.
No.
Yes. Again, it's pretty similar to what's right now. It doesn't cost a company a penny to change their logo. It doesn't cost a company a penny to change their mascots. But it does cost them to change what their CEOs look like, to change what their vice presidents look like. That will cost them money. Mm-hmm. Are they going to do that? Probably not. But again, if you don't have that in your history class and learn that speech, you don't learn that and see that today. And I think that's the big thing.
We don't have a lot of people, minorities in the workforce that are teachers to even begin with. And that's sad. And even the ones that we do have end up not staying in the profession long enough. And that is nothing to say with them. That, again, that has to do with, usually if you are, one, the statistics of minority men and women going to college is much lower than their white counterparts. Two, even if they get to college, there are much fewer minorities whose parents pay for them to go to college as their white counterparts. So they can't take a teaching job at $35K a fucking year. They can't afford to do that. They need a higher paying job. So they go into industries where they're like, man, how am I going to pay back my $819 a month student loan, Sally Mae?
Yeah, Connie,
yeah. Like, what am I going to do? And then they end up not going into the workforce. Then the ones that do end up going into the workforce are like, I'm going to try to educate my youth, the people that look like me. Good on ya. So then I go to the inner city schools, which are underfunded, underrepresented. And then you deal with that. You deal with not having the resources you need, not having the support that you need, your classrooms being too large, and you not being able to educate people and giving them the time and dedication that you need per student. Then you end up getting burnt out. Then you don't do it anymore. It's like an endless cycle of the establishment that created this, of just continuously trying to keep people down.
Yeah, it's essentially like they're like, why are you hitting yourself? It's like your kids.
Yeah.
Like they're using your hand. Like, why are you hitting yourself? All right, grow up. Like the amount of teachers that I know who are friends or relatives that spend so much money out of their own pocket for class supplies and things like that. Like that shouldn't be a thing.
Same.
And then the one thing that you provide them with textbooks, you can't even get that right.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? There needs to be stricter rules about teaching subjects. Again, you can be, a teacher and all that, but you should have to get, like, specific, I want to be this type of teacher. Yeah. So you all take the same, like, core classes, but then, like, the last year and a half of your major, you split off. That's basically what Kent State did for hospitality management. You took majority of the business core classes, just like business management did, but then after a while you tailed off into your hospitality and you became hospitality focused. And I don't understand how teaching programs aren't like that.
Well, I think that they need the because there's such a demand usually for teachers in this country, sure. Especially K through 12. I think that they want to be able to make it as easy as possible to interchange these people. Like, oh, she's teaching math this year, she's teaching science next year because, Mr. So-and-so's in jail. So we gotta move her over to the science wing.
And I mean that's understandable, but I feel like that's also a big problem. Like, why are you making interchangeable like that?
Because they have to. There's not enough demand for teachers. Because you don't pay them enough money. That's why.
You wouldn't have a pediatrician go and be like, well, you're in neurosurgery today. Is that cool?
Right. Yeah.
No, I'm in pediatrics. Like.
Right. Not today. You're not.
Yeah, not today. I hope you
get all that tumor, Tiger.
Read up McGraw Hill. They'll tell you.
Right. Yeah.
But like, it's just so crazy. Is that teaching is such a And we did a whole episode on how much, teachers meant to us. But teaching is such a pivotal role in society. And
Yes.
you're like, we'll pay them the bare minimum. You're going to do it because of the love of the job. What? The people that you're going to trust to teach the generation that's going to become senators, maybe even presidents, or anything else, you're going to be like, you're going to do this for the love of the job, okay? You're barely make ends meet for the love of the job. And by the way, you're going to pay for your own supplies. I'm sorry? Like,
Right.
all of it needs to be, I think, re-looked at and redone. From the textbooks to how they're monitored to the quote-unquote monopoly that McGraw Hill has to the standardization across the country. Because, again, like you said, in Texas, you learn one whole different thing that I learned in New York.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that different. If you want to do state history, that's different. If you want to tell kids that
Hell, even I'm
Moses
nervous
came
about
in
that.
Texas, more power to you. But I think that needs to be looked at. Like, there needs to be a stronger conversation around how kids are learning, who's teaching them, and what kind of resources the people who are teaching them are getting. And I feel like companies like McGraw Hill have a huge responsibility that they don't give a about.
Correct.
They're just pumping out the textbooks. You tell us if we've made a mistake.
Cashing
How's our
them
driving?
checks.
Yeah.
Right.
That's going to be the next thing on one of those books is like, how's my driving sticker? And you just call the number when they make a mistake. They'll fix it.
Give it to
They'll send you a sticker.
Give it to a 9th grade boy.
Yeah.
Guess they'll figure it out.
Thanks, Wikipedia.
It's insane. It's honestly insane that a 9th grade boy, out of all of those people that looked up or that published it, that wrote it, that's where you know, like, this isn't a mistake.
You thought it was okay.
Yeah, this is your like, meh.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yep. You thought
And
it
that's
was okay.
not true. What we need to get to a place in this country where if you are a citizen of this country, I should have access to a roof over my head, medicine to keep me alive, and an education if I so choose to have one, even after K through 12.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to pay for any of those. I firmly believe that. It would be in the best interest of our country to have smart, healthy, educated people. Why wouldn't we want that? Because there's too much money in everything. Why haven't we cured cancer yet? Because too many people make too much money off people dying. That's why.
Yep.
And now we're getting older and we have a generation of people, our generation of people, and some of the generation right before us, that have access to the internet, or that had access to the internet at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to educate ourselves. And that's why you have such a bridge between these generations where we're like, no, we're not snowflakes. Like, we're just, like, enough is enough. Like, if me being a snowflake is caring about the mental health of myself and those around me, I guess I am. But yeah, like,
Yeah.
how's your abusive relationships, you cheating on your wife and beating your kids, sir? Like, that's literally like the difference that we're making is that we're a generation of people that are focused on our mental health. We're focused on educating our children the right way. We're focused on righting the wrongs of generations before us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's
I'll
something.
put a millennial on the board of McGraw Hill.
It'd be a whole
Change.org.
different- Yeah, that'd be a whole different
We're gonna
thing.
put together a petition.
Yeah. Hashtag Millennial McGraw Hill.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing too, is that, it's funny that people can throw around the term like, oh, you're a snowflake if you don't. What the hell does that mean? Can I take a joke? Yes. Am I hurt by certain things? No. Do I think that was a racist comment that you didn't mean as a joke? Yes. See, there's a
Right.
difference.
Yeah.
There's a difference between that was a joke, like how a George Lopez does a joke, or a Kevin Hart, or a Dave Chappelle, because there's no malice in it. You know it was a joke. That's not a snowflake. A snowflake is when you say something brutally racist, you laugh, I don't. Nobody around me laughs. But because we didn't, you're like, oh, what are you, sensitive? No, you're just not funny. You're a bigot.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's funny. Yeah.
We don't laugh at it. Like, it's weird. It's weird. And I think it's threatening to people. And I think it's very threatening to people, especially whenever they realize that we are soon to be the majority. We will be deciding elections. We will be deciding what is and is not acceptable socially. And we already have.
Yeah. I think the fear isn't so much that we're doing it. I think the fear is the retribution that they think is going to happen. And people, for the most part, aren't like that.
No.
People are very forgiving.
I mean, just in general, we're just like, all right, it's over, guys. Now you just can't be a piece of shit. Oh, here we go. Like, how dare you?
Yeah, now I got to change my whole day, and I got to change how I live my life.
Right.
Because you don't want to. My great-grandfather didn't fight, so we can do that. He lost, sir.
Yeah. So, really, these changes should have been made back then. But here we are. Yeah. No time like the present. So, I mean, the old adage they would say was, it is what it is. But it's not. And it doesn't have to be.
It's not what it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. We can change the narratives moving forward. We don't have to live like this. And that's what people don't understand. And either we'll make everyone understand, or y'all will die off eventually, and it'll change. Like, it's one of those two options. There's nothing else. Either we'll take the reins, or the good Lord will. So, you pick.
Yeah.
But we want to hear from you guys. If you guys had McGraw Hill textbooks, I want to know. Was it like every school? I bet you it's the overwhelming majority.
I think it's almost every school. If you didn't have McGraw textbooks, I want to know what treasure of a school you went to.
Right. Yeah. And if any of you guys are teachers, we'd love to hear about how you guys are adjusting to the new year. A lot of people are doing virtual classes. I'm interested. I want to do a follow-up episode about that. But either way, we'd love to hear from you guys. As always, all our social media links are in the description box below. So thank you guys for tuning in.
And again, if you like our videos instead of our audio, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell so you know when we get the videos going. Or if you do like the audio versions better, which, spoiler alert, I feel like most of you do.
Numbers don't lie.
Yeah, exactly. McGraw Hill can't fake those numbers.
Right.
Go ahead and listen to us on pretty much, now I can literally say, honestly, almost anywhere you listen to podcasts, because we have Pandora and Amazon Music, I think, right?
Yeah, they replaced Google Play. Not replaced, but they, we switched. I don't think we're available on Google Play anymore.
Ah.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos does it again.
We'll have to ask our audio engineer / now business manager E, since he set that up. So I'll have to ask him. But I really think from what my understanding whenever we were told was that we are no longer on Google Play. But that could just be a lie. I don't know.
You can find us on Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcast, and Amazon.
The big player, the heavy hitters.
The heavy hitters, if you will. But as always, he's been Anthony. I've been Carlos, and remember, it's not too late to change. Just gotta know what came before. Till next time.